The distress signal arrived on a Tuesday morning, pulsing through deep space monitoring stations worldwide. Dr. Alec Morgan sat in the control room at Arecibo, his third cup of coffee growing cold as he stared at the waveform on his screen. The signal was unmistakably artificial, a repeating pattern of prime numbers that any intelligent species would recognize. "It's genuine," he whispered, hands trembling as he reached for the secure line. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed the signal's authenticity. It originated from HD 4307G, an exoplanet previously identified as potentially habitable. But this wasn't just proof of alien life. It was a desperate plea. Commander Wren Davis of the United Earth Space Command stood before the hastily assembled Security Council. Her weathered face remained impassive as she played the decoded message. "This is the Narration Collective. Our civilization faces extinction. The Vraxan Empire has conquered 16 systems. They consume all resources and enslave survivors. We detected your transmissions. You are next. Our projections give your world 8 of your years before they arrive. Please, help us." The recording ended, leaving behind a silence heavy with dread. "We've triangulated their position," Davis continued. "They're approximately 4 light-years away, in a stellar system near Alpha Centauri. Our long-range scans have detected evidence of massive energy discharges consistent with large-scale warfare." President Torres cleared her throat. "What are our options?" "Limited," Admiral Pike responded. "We have no FTL capabilities, no space-based weapons platforms, nothing remotely capable of interstellar warfare." A tired-looking scientist stood up. "With all due respect, that's not entirely true." Dr. Emma Ward had spent 15 years developing theoretical propulsion systems. Most dismissed her work as fantasy, but now every eye turned to her. Project Prometheus. It was deemed too dangerous, but it works. The prototype achieved 0.2 C in tests before funding was cut. "That's still over 20 years of travel time," someone objected. "Not if we build the full-scale version. The math suggests we could reach 0.8 C. We could have a defensive fleet there. In 5 years." President Torres's eyes narrowed. "And weapons?" Admiral Pike looked grim. "If we can move ships at relativistic speeds, the ships themselves become weapons. But we'd need to develop actual combat systems from scratch." "So we're talking about building an interstellar war fleet from nothing in under 8 years, Torres said. "Yes," Davis replied simply. "Either that or wait for extinction." Torres surveyed the room, taking in the fear, determination, and doubt on every face. Humanity had never been truly united, but now faced an existential threat that made previous conflicts seem petty. "Get me the heads of state, all of them," she ordered, "and prepare a global broadcast. Humanity needs to know." As the council dispersed, Alec remained staring at the signal playback. Something about it bothered him, a pattern beneath the pattern. "Dr. Ward," he called as she passed. "I think there's more to this message." Her eyes widened as she examined his findings. "My God," she whispered. "It's a data packet, technical specifications." The Narration aren't just asking for help, Alec realized. They're giving us the means to fight back. "This changes everything," Emma breathed. Outside, rain began to fall on a world blissfully unaware that everything was about to change. Humanity had 8 years to transform from a planetary species into an interstellar military power capable of confronting an empire that had conquered 16 star systems. The race against extinction had begun. 3 months after the distress signal, the United Earth Space Defense Initiative was ratified by 194 nations. Former borders dissolved as humanity reorganized around a single purpose: survival. General Maya Lin, veteran of 3 terrestrial conflicts, now headed the largest military buildup in human history. Standing in the converted aircraft manufacturing plant in Brazil, now Shipyard 1, she watched as robotic arms assembled the skeleton of humanity's first warship. "Will it fly?" she asked bluntly. Dr. Jake Miller, former aerospace engineer now head of propulsion development, nodded. "The Narration data solved our containment problems. Their understanding of quantum fields is centuries ahead of ours." "And the weapons?" Professor Thomas Reed stepped forward, his prosthetic leg glinting under the harsh lights. "We've successfully adapted their shield technology, As for offensive capabilities, he gestured to a reinforced chamber where technicians in hazmat suits worked around a pulsing blue core. The particle accelerator weaponry is functional, though power requirements remain problematic. Lin nodded curtly. Time frame? First prototype in 8 months. Full production line in 18. 50 vessels in 4 years if we maintain current resource allocation. Make it 100, she ordered. Across the planet, similar conversations unfolded in newly established defense facilities. In Kenya, the Global Military Academy now trained pilots for spacecraft that didn't yet exist. In the Urals, mining operations had doubled, then tripled as resources were funneled to the war effort. Australia had become one vast solar farm, feeding power to manufacturing centers. But the transformation wasn't without resistance. President Torres faced the angry delegation, her patience wearing thin. We cannot divert resources from Space Defense Initiative, she stated flatly. People are starving, Representative Flores countered. The global economy is in shambles. Essential services are breaking down. And none of that will matter when the Vraxen arrive, interrupted Vice President Okafor. Every simulation confirms it. They strip planets of resources and eliminate resistance. There won't be an economy to fix if we don't build these ships. The holographic display showed the current estimates. 87% probability of extinction if Earth couldn't mount an effective defense. We're not just building weapons, Torres added more softly. We're evolving. The Narration data includes medical advances, energy solutions, agricultural improvements, all being implemented alongside defense technologies. After the delegates departed, Torres slumped in her chair. Are we monsters, Victor? She asked her chief of staff. Forcing the world through this transformation? No, ma'am, he replied quietly. But we may need to become something other than what we were to survive. In orbit, the International Space Station had been expanded into a construction platform. Commander Danny Patel supervised as the first space-forged hull plates were attached to the framework of the UES Defender. Beautiful, isn't she? Asked her XO, pointing at the half-completed vessel. She's a weapon, Mark. Beautiful isn't the word I'd use. She's our future. Without her and her sisters, we don't have one. Patel nodded reluctantly. The choice had been made. In the 4 years since the signal, humanity had progressed technologically more than in the previous century. Children now learned astrogation alongside mathematics. Universities had been retooled for war production. Every resource, every mind, every innovation, all directed toward one goal. On Earth below, the lights of cities dimmed as power was redirected to manufacturing centers. The age of abundance was over. The age of preparation had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Vraxen Empire continued its relentless advance, unaware that its next target was frantically preparing to bite back. Admiral Emma Ward, formerly Dr. Ward, stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, Earth's first fully operational battlecruiser. 5 years of brutal work, sacrifice, and global reorganization had produced a fleet of 73 warships now assembled at the edge of the solar system. Signal from Pluto Observation Post, announced Communications Officer Liam Beck. Unknown. Vessels approaching. Configuration matches Narration descriptions of Vraxen scout ships. Ward's stomach tightened. They're early. 3 years ahead of projections, confirmed Strategic Officer Nora Patel. 5 vessels, moving at 0.4 C and decelerating. Alert the fleet. Battle stations. Throughout the assembled armada, alarm klaxons sounded. Ward watched as her crew, humans who had trained for a war against an enemy they'd never seen, moved with practiced efficiency to their posts. They've detected us, Beck reported. Changing course to intercept. Launch probe cluster, Ward ordered. Let's get as much data as we can before engagement. The probes streaked toward the approaching vessels, transmitting detailed scans back to the fleet. The Vraxen ships were organic in appearance. Writhing, asymmetrical forms with glowing nodes pulsing along their hulls. Their technology doesn't match anything in the Narration database, said Science Officer Theo West, frowning at his displays. These energy signatures, they're not using fusion or antimatter. It's something else. Biological components? Ward asked, remembering fragments of the Narration warning. Possible. The hull material appears to be regenerating micro-damage from cosmic radiation. The Admiral's expression hardened. Weapons status. Particle cannons charged. Kinetic batteries loaded. Shield generators at full capacity, reported Weapons Officer Kai-Chen Ward, opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Ward. The enemy we've prepared for has arrived ahead of schedule. Everything humanity has accomplished over the past 5 years has led to this moment. We are the line between Earth and extinction. Hold formation. Follow engagement. Protocols. And remember, we are not alone in this fight. The Narration Collective and countless other species are counting on us to succeed where they could not. Ward out. The Vraxan vessels accelerated suddenly, energy building around their forward sections. Incoming weapons fire, shouted Patel. Evasive maneuvers. All ships, engage at will. The space between the fleets erupted in blinding light as energy weapons discharged. The human vessels, smaller and more maneuverable than their alien counterparts, scattered in practiced formations. 2 Vraxan beams struck the UES Dauntless, its shields flaring brilliant blue before failing. The ship's hull crumpled under the assault, atmosphere venting into space. Ward fought down her horror. Focus fire on the lead vessel, all batteries. The combined firepower of 30 battlecruisers converged on the largest Vraxan ship. Its organic hull absorbed the first salvos, visibly regenerating, before finally rupturing under the sustained barrage. Direct hit, Chen announced. Enemy vessel disabled. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Ward silenced them with a raised hand. Status of remaining hostiles? Regrouping. Energy signatures suggest they're charging weapons systems. They underestimated us, Patel observed quietly. A mistake they won't make twice, Ward replied. All vessels prepare for second engagement. Deploy countermeasures. As the battle raged, science vessels at the fleet's periphery gathered crucial intelligence. The Vraxan technology was indeed partially biological, their ships semi-sentient, constructs that could heal damage and adapt tactics. 6 hours later, 3 Vraxan vessels had been destroyed. One escaped, jumping to FTL speeds that human ships couldn't match. 2 human destroyers were lost with all hands. 4 other vessels suffered severe damage. In the aftermath, Ward stood silently at the viewport, watching recovery teams collect debris for analysis. They'll be back, Patel said, joining her. And in greater numbers. Ward nodded grimly. But now we know they can bleed. The mood in the War Council chamber was somber as Admiral Ward presented her findings. Holographic displays showed detailed anatomies of recovered Vraxan bodies. Tall, insectoid creatures with compound eyes and chitinous exoskeletons. Their biology is silicon-based, she explained. Their technology integrates organic components with mechanical systems in ways we're only beginning to understand. Most troubling, we've confirmed they possess true faster-than-light capabilities. President Torres frowned. So they can reach Earth before we're ready? Potentially. However, analysis of their navigation system suggests they operate on hub-based expansion. They'll likely return to their nearest forward base to report and gather reinforcements before mounting a full invasion. General Lin leaned forward. Which gives us what timeline? 8 months. Possibly less. The council erupted in concerned murmurs. Earth's defensive systems weren't complete. The orbital platforms were only at 60% capacity. The ground-based laser grid had barely begun installation. We need to buy time, Torres concluded. Admiral Ward nodded, her expression grim yet determined. Which is why I'm proposing Operation Vanguard. She activated a new hologram showing a star map with a highlighted system. Using data from captured Vraxan navigational systems, we've located what appears to be their forward operating base in this system. I propose we take the fight to them. Silence fell across the chamber. An offensive operation? General Lin asked, incredulous. Our fleet isn't designed for projection of force across interstellar distances. No, Ward agreed. But we've reverse-engineered certain components of Vraxan FTL technology. Dr. Miller believes we can modify our existing propulsion systems for a one-way journey at superluminal speeds. One way? Torres asked sharply. The modifications won't survive the stress of FTL travel. We'd arrive at the Vraxan base but would need to return at conventional speeds. That's a suicide mission, someone objected. Ward's voice hardened. It's a delaying action. A small strike force could disrupt their operations, destroy their shipyards, and potentially set back their invasion plans by years. The discussion lasted 18 hours. Arguments became heated, then desperate, then resigned. Finally, President Torres authorized Operation Vanguard with one condition. All personnel must be volunteers. They needed 20 crew members. Over 8 million volunteered within the first day. Commander Danny Patel stood before her hand-picked crew aboard the UES Spearhead, a modified destroyer stripped down to minimal systems to accommodate the experimental FTL drive. "This mission has 3 objectives," she stated calmly. "Recon the enemy's stronghold, sabotage their shipbuilding facilities, and return with critical intelligence. I won't lie to you. Our chances of completing all 3 objectives are slim. Our chances of returning at all are slimmer." She surveyed the 20 faces before her. Pilots, engineers, marines, and scientists. All had left messages for loved ones. All had made peace with their decision. Questions? Lieutenant Rex Cooper raised his hand. "What if we encounter the Naroon or other subjugated species? Our mission parameters include liberation of any allied forces if possible," Patel confirmed. "But primary objective remains disruption of Vraxan operations." 3 days later, humanity held its collective breath as the Spearhead activated its experimental drive. The ship shuddered, spatial distortions warping its hull as it accelerated beyond light speed, vanishing from sensors. 17 agonizing days passed without contact. Defense preparations continued with renewed urgency. Then, as hope dwindled, a burst transmission arrived. Heavily degraded but unmistakable. "This is Spearhead. Mission accomplished. Vraxan shipyards destroyed. Fleet disrupted. We've found allies. Returning with critical, cannot maintain transmission." The message ended abruptly, but its impact reverberated across Earth. The counteroffensive had begun. Humanity wasn't merely defending. They'd struck the first blow against an interstellar empire that had never known defeat. President Torres ordered a global address. "Today," she declared, "we've proven that humanity will not quietly await extinction. We fight not just for our survival, but for every species threatened by tyranny among the stars." Behind closed doors, however, she asked Admiral Ward one question. "What allies did they find?" Ward's expression was unreadable. "We don't know, but they're bringing them home." The Spearhead limped into the solar system 3 months later, its hull scorched and pitted, running on emergency power. 2 vessels of unknown design flanked it protectively, their sleek forms responding to hails with incomprehensible static. From the observation deck of the UES Vigilance, Admiral Ward watched as shuttlecraft approached the returning destroyer. "Life signs?" she asked tensely. 11 human signatures," reported the sensor officer. "Plus, something else." The survivors were quarantined immediately upon retrieval. Commander Patel, gaunt and bearing fresh scars across her face, stood at attention despite obvious exhaustion. "Report," Ward ordered, her voice softening slightly. "The Vraxan outpost is neutralized," Patel stated. "We inflicted approximately 80% destruction of their shipbuilding capacity and eliminated their command structure." "And your crew?" Pain flashed across Patel's features. 9 lost during initial infiltration, 3 during exfiltration. The rest survived thanks to the Ket. "The Ket?" Patel gestured toward the adjoining chamber where medical personnel attended to 3 alien beings. They stood upright on 4 lower limbs, their upper bodies featuring 4 manipulator arms. Their skin shimmered with iridescent scales, and their eyes, 6 arranged in a circle, blinked independently. Former subjects of the Vraxan Empire. They've been fighting a guerrilla war for decades. When we attacked the base, they recognized an opportunity and allied with us. Can they communicate? Yes. They're telepathic, limited range, but sufficient for basic coordination. Their ships are biological constructs, grown rather than built, highly maneuverable, nearly impossible to detect on standard sensors. Ward studied the aliens with newfound respect. And they've agreed to help us? More than that. They're offering an alliance. Patel handed over a data crystal. This contains navigational data for 17 systems currently under Vraxan control, including detailed weaknesses of their defensive structures. The Ket have been gathering intelligence for generations, waiting for an opportunity to strike back. Why help us? We just arrived on the interstellar scene. Because we did what no other species has done, Patel explained. We took the fight to the Vraxan instead of waiting for them to come to us. The Ket call it the hunter's spirit. Apparently, it's rare. Within days, the alliance was formalized. Ket biotechnology specialists integrated seamlessly with human engineering teams. Their organic computing systems, capable of intuitive problem-solving beyond binary logic, revolutionized Earth's defensive networks overnight. In return, humanity provided something the Ket had lacked for centuries: manufacturing, capacity for large-scale weapons. The Ket's biological technology excelled at stealth and maneuverability, but lacked the raw destructive power of human particle cannons and fusion warheads. President Torres addressed the United Earth Council, her expression solemn yet hopeful. 6 years ago, we received a distress call that changed the course of human history. We believed ourselves alone against an overwhelming enemy. Today, I can tell you that we have found friends among the stars. The chamber erupted in applause as a Ket representative floated forward on a gravity platform. Its telepathic translator converted thoughts to speech. The Vraxen believed themselves apex predators, the alien communicated, its thoughts rendered in a melodious synthetic voice. They have never faced a species that hunts as you do, with strategy, with tools, with cooperation. We have watched your kind. You transform aggression into protection, competition into collaboration. This is what the galaxy needs. In orbit, human engineers and Ket biologists worked side by side, integrating technologies that had evolved light years apart. The first hybrid vessel, designated UES Symbiosis, combined a human-designed weapons platform with Ket biological navigation and life support systems. Meanwhile, deep space monitoring stations detected increased Varaxan activity. The invasion force had been delayed but not deterred. Intelligence suggested they had reassigned forces from 3 other conquered systems, a testament to how seriously they now took the human threat. They're coming, Admiral Ward confirmed to the War Council. But this time, we won't face them alone. As she spoke, throughout the galaxy, other subjugated species began receiving encoded transmissions, messages of resistance, coordinates for rendezvous points, proof that the seemingly invincible Vraxen could be defeated. The spark of rebellion had been lit. 3 weeks, announced Admiral Ward, her holographic image flickering slightly as it addressed war rooms across 6 continents. Long-range sensors confirm a Vraxen battle group has entered the Oort cloud. Composition: approximately 200 vessels, including what the Ket identify as 3 dreadnoughts. General Lin's expression remained stoic. Our forces? 127 Earth vessels fully operational. 42 Ket ships, plus our orbital defense platforms. Odds? President Torres asked quietly. The Ket strategic algorithms give us a 34% chance of repelling the invasion, Ward replied honestly. Better than the 12% probability without their assistance. But still. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood the stakes. What about the transmission we sent? Torres pressed. Any response from the other resistance groups the Ket mentioned? Ward hesitated. Nothing conclusive. We've detected unusual activity in several neighboring systems, but no direct communication. So we stand alone. Not alone, corrected the Ket ambassador, its telepathic thoughts translated through the neural interface it now wore. Never again alone. For 17 days, Earth prepared. Civilian populations were moved to underground shelters. Final weapons tests were conducted. Every ship was inspected down to the smallest component. Aboard the UES Redemption, Lieutenant Mira Hassan ran final diagnostics on the newly integrated Ket bioneural targeting system. The living computer pulsed gently under her touch, its neural pathways adapting to her thought patterns. Still can't believe we're flying into battle with something that's basically alive, commented her engineering partner, technician Ben Foster. The Ket don't distinguish between technology and biology the way we do, Mira replied, carefully adjusting the nutrient flow to the system. This targeting computer is growing more efficient every hour as it learns our combat patterns. Does it know it might die tomorrow? Mira hesitated. I asked Ambassador Trell that same question. He said it knows its purpose, to protect life against those who would extinguish it. That's enough. Elsewhere on the ship, Marine Commander Alexis Ray briefed her boarding teams. The plan was desperate but necessary. If Earth's fleet couldn't Destroy the Vraxan dreadnoughts through conventional warfare. Specialized teams would attempt direct infiltration. The Ket have provided detailed schematics, she explained, highlighting the organic weak points in Vraxan vessel design. These junction nodes connect their distributed consciousness networks. Destroying 3 or more will severely impair their combat effectiveness. And how exactly do we get aboard alien dreadnoughts in the middle of a space battle? Asked Sergeant. Vega.Ray activated a hologram showing a small, pod-like craft. Ket infiltration spores, bioengineered to mimic Vraxan hull tissue. They'll attach to the enemy vessel, burn through the outer membrane, and deploy your team. The looks exchanged among the Marines reflected equal parts disbelief and grim determination. On Earth, in the final hours before the battle, a strange calm settled over humanity. 6 years of preparation had changed them. The desperate scramble to survive had forged unprecedented unity. Old enemies now served side by side. Resources once hoarded were freely shared. Children born during the preparation years had never known a world not united against external threat. President Torres visited a primary school converted into an emergency medical center. Children too young to remember peace drew pictures of starships and alien allies. "What happens if we lose?" asked a small boy, no more than 7. Torres knelt beside him. "We won't." "But what if we do?" She studied his serious young face. "Then we'll keep fighting. Humans don't give up. That's what makes us who we are." In orbit, Admiral Ward received the final communication from Earth Command. "Godspeed." She turned to her bridge crew. "Battle stations. All vessels. Assume defensive formation Delta. This is what we've prepared for. This is what humanity does best. We face impossible odds. We adapt. And we overcome." The Vraxan fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel precisely where predicted, their bizarre organic vessels distorting space itself as they arrived. Immediately, they launched fighters, thousands of small craft swarming toward Earth's defensive line. "All ships," Ward commanded, her voice steady. "Engage at will." The battle for Earth had begun. The void erupted with light as the combined human Ket fleet engaged the Vraxan armada. Particle beams lanced across space. Interceptor craft darted between capital ships, and the cold vacuum itself seemed to shudder with the energy being unleashed. From the UES Redemption's command deck, Admiral Ward directed the defensive operations with calculated precision. Holographic displays showed the battle unfolding across a 1,000,000-kilometer front. "Dreadnoughts approaching Point Sigma," reported Strategic Officer Patel. "They're bypassing our forward elements." "As expected," Ward replied. "Activate defense. Grid Epsilon." Concealed within the lunar shadow, automated weapons platforms powered up, catching the Vraxan advance force in devastating crossfire. 12 enemy vessels erupted into superheated gas before their companions adjusted course. But the advantage was temporary. The Vraxan organic ships began adapting, their hulls developing reflective properties that diminished the effectiveness of energy weapons. "They're learning," Patel observed grimly. "Switch to kinetic bombardment," Ward ordered. "All ships, execute pattern Ket 7. The human vessels broke formation, regrouping into smaller, more mobile strike teams integrated with Ket bio ships. The tactic confused Vraxan targeting systems, accustomed to facing opponents who maintained rigid military structures. Yet for every small victory, the sheer numbers of the Vraxan force pushed the defenders back. 2 hours into the battle, Earth's outer defense perimeter had collapsed. Half the orbital platforms were destroyed. 28 human vessels and 17 Ket ships had been lost. Aboard the UES Intrepid, Commander Alexis Ray led her Marine team into the infiltration spores. The biological pods pulsed around them, almost seeming to breathe. "Remember," she told her squad, "our mission isn't to win the battle, it's to give Earth's fleet a fighting chance." The infiltration craft launched, accelerating toward the nearest Vraxan dreadnought. A massive, writhing construct nearly 5 kilometers long. Its surface rippled with defensive countermeasures, but the spores, genetically engineered to mimic Vraxan biosignatures, slipped through undetected. Penetrating the hull was like cutting through living flesh. The interior of the Vraxan vessel was a nightmarish blend of machinery and organic tissue. Pulsing conduits, chambers that expanded and contracted like lungs, control interfaces that merged with their operators. "Life signs?" Ray whispered. Everywhere, her scanner operator replied. The ship itself is partially alive. Following KED intelligence, they made their way toward the central neural junction. Twice they encountered Vraxen crew, insectoid warriors that fought with horrifying efficiency until the humans' specialized ammunition disrupted their neural functions. Meanwhile, the space battle reached its turning point. The 3 Vraxen dreadnoughts moved into position around Earth, preparing to deploy their planet-killer weapons, gravitational disruptors that would tear the planet's crust apart. We can't stop all 3, Ward realized, watching the dreadnoughts align. At that moment, her communications officer shouted, "Admiral, new contacts appearing across the system border." Space distorted as dozens, then hundreds of vessels emerged from FTL. Bizarre configurations representing at least 7 distinct design philosophies. For a heartbeat, Ward feared reinforcements for the enemy. Then her communications panel lit up with incoming transmissions in multiple formats. The translation matrix struggled briefly before rendering the message. To the defenders of Earth, the Narration Collective acknowledges your courage. The Coalition of Free Worlds stands with you. The liberation begins now. Throughout the system, representatives of species long subjugated by the Vraxen arrived, brought together by the example of one young species that had dared to fight back. Aboard the lead dreadnought, Commander Ray's team reached the neural core, a key, pulsating mass of crystalline structures interfaced with biological computing elements. "Set charges here, here, and here," she ordered, indicating the critical junctions. As her team worked, a telepathic presence flooded their minds, the collective consciousness of the Vraxen ship itself. "You cannot stop us," it communicated. "We have consumed 1,000 worlds. Your resistance is an aberration, a statistical anomaly that will be corrected." Ray planted her final charge. "You know what humans specialize in? Aberrations, statistical anomalies, the impossible." She detonated the charges. Across the battlefield, the lead dreadnought suddenly convulsed, its coordinated attacks dissolving into chaos. At the same moment, the Allied fleet struck, their combined firepower focusing on the vulnerable second dreadnought. "All ships," Admiral Ward commanded, "converge on the 3rd target. Everything you've got." The Redemption shuddered as it accelerated, beyond safe parameters, leading the remaining Earth vessels in a desperate charge. Particle cannons overheated, hull integrity warnings blared, but still they pressed forward. The 3rd dreadnought, suddenly finding itself targeted by both Earth's fleet and the newly arrived allies, attempted to retreat. Too late. Concentrated fire from 60 vessels overwhelmed its defenses, rupturing its propulsion systems and triggering a cascading failure that tore the massive ship apart from within. With their command structure shattered and facing unexpected opposition, the remaining Vraxen forces scattered, retreating toward the system's edge. President Torres watched from Earth Command as the enemy fled. "Did we win?" she asked softly. "Today, yes," Admiral Ward's voice replied over the comlink. "They'll return eventually, but next time, we won't be fighting alone." On the main view screen, representatives of 7 alien species appeared, the leadership of the newly formed coalition. The Narration delegate spoke first. "For centuries, the Vraxen Empire expanded unchallenged. They conquered through fear and isolation, ensuring no resistance could unify against them, until Earth." "We didn't do anything special," Torres responded. "We just refused to go quietly." "That," the Narration replied, "is precisely what makes humans special." One cry for help was all it took. Then Earth unleashed hell. As the coalition vessels moved into orbit alongside the battered Earth fleet, humanity looked to the stars with new understanding. They were not the strongest species, nor the most technologically advanced. But they possessed something the Vraxen could never comprehend: the absolute refusal to accept defeat, the capacity to unite against impossible odds, and the will to fight not just for their own survival, but for the freedom of all sentient life. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the Vraxen began their expansion, the galaxy dared to hope.